What if I told you that one of history's greatest mysteries walked into a city square with no past, no name, and no memory of who he was? On May 26, 1828, a teenage boy appeared on the streets of Nuremberg, Germany. His clothes were tattered. His boots were broken. His legs could barely carry him. But the real mystery? Nobody knew where he came from. Nobody knew his name. And for the next 5 years, this boy would captivate an entire continent with a story so strange that historians are still debating it nearly 2 centuries later. Welcome to SherlockMode. The shoemaker George Weichman was standing outside his home when he noticed something unusual. A boy, barely able to walk, dressed in rags that looked like they hadn't been washed in months. The boy could barely speak. He mumbled incoherently, moving his lips as if trying to form words he'd never learned. When authorities took him in, they discovered something shocking. Despite spending his entire life unable to speak, this boy could write his own name. Kaspar Hauser. For the next 2 months, Kaspar was locked in a Nuremberg prison cell. But instead of acting like a typical prisoner, he sat perfectly still for hours. Motionless, silent, staring into darkness like a statue made of flesh and bone. He never lay down to sleep. He moved like a cat, deliberately, with an eerie grace that made everyone who saw him deeply uncomfortable. Masses of locals rushed to the prison windows. They called him the child of Nuremberg, and as word spread across Europe, a darker question began to form in people's minds. Who was this boy, and where had he really come from? Kaspar's account of his childhood was extraordinary. He claimed that his entire life, from birth, had been spent locked in a dark hole, underground, never seeing sunlight, never speaking to another human. His only food was bread and water. His only bed was straw on damp stone. He had no memory of faces, no memory of voices, nothing but darkness and hunger and the sound of his own breathing echoing in the void. A respected lawyer named Farbach took interest in Kaspar's case. He published writings claiming the boy was of noble birth, possibly a secret prince, perhaps even the rightful heir to the throne of Baden. According to one sensational theory, Kaspar was the crown prince of Baden, stolen as an infant in 1812. A conspiracy, a kidnapping orchestrated by a noblewoman named the Countess of Hochberg. She wanted to control the throne, so she secretly replaced the real prince with a dying infant. The real prince, they claimed, was hidden away and kept in darkness for 16 years, until he was released onto the streets of Nuremberg as Kaspar Hauser. This theory spread like wildfire. Newspapers across Europe published it. Reward money was offered. Investigators combed the Bavarian countryside searching for the legendary pit where Kaspar had allegedly suffered his entire childhood. But there was a problem. Nobody could find it. Nobody could find any evidence of where Kaspar had been kept. His descriptions of his captors led nowhere. His memories of the location were vague and contradictory, and investigators began to wonder, was Kaspar telling the truth, or was he an elaborate hoax? Then came the turning point. On October 17, 1829, everything changed. Kaspar was attacked by a hooded stranger while sitting in an outhouse. The man had a heavy weapon. He struck Kaspar on the head, then stabbed him. Kaspar ran. He fled through the house, up the stairs, down into the cellar. His blood left a trail on every surface. When police found him, they were shocked. But some officers had a different theory. What if Kaspar had done this to himself? What if he had cut himself with a razor to gain sympathy? To convince people he was truly the victim of some terrible conspiracy? An English aristocrat named Lord Stanhope believed in Kaspar. He took him under his protection. He provided money. He arranged for Kaspar to live safely in the town of Ansbach. Stanhope became obsessed with proving Kaspar's royal heritage. He launched investigations in Hungary. He interviewed witnesses. He spent enormous sums of money. But each investigation led nowhere. And slowly, even Stanhope began to doubt. Perhaps Kaspar was an impostor. Perhaps this entire story was an elaborate fraud designed to manipulate wealthy nobles and gain fortune. By November 1831, Kaspar's life had become one of constant movement and uncertainty. He was shuffled from guardian to guardian, from town to town, from one investigation to another. His story had cracks. People began to question everything. But Kaspar maintained his narrative. He claimed the attacks were real. He claimed he was truly a kidnapped prince. He claimed he had answers just within reach. All he needed was a chance to finally discover who he really was. And then, on December 14th, 1833, Kaspar received a message. Someone had finally come forward with answers. They wanted to meet him in a local park. Kaspar was excited. He believed this was his moment. The truth was finally coming. He went to the park. A stranger approached him. The stranger asked him a simple question. "Are you Kaspar Hauser?" Kaspar nodded. And then the stranger handed him a silk purse. Inside was a note. Initials. MLO. The stranger never said another word. He simply drew a knife and stabbed Kaspar in the abdomen. Then he vanished into the darkness. Kaspar staggered home bleeding. He survived for 3 more days. 3 days of agony. 3 days of doctors trying to save his life. But the wound was fatal. On December 17th, 1833, Kaspar Hauser died. His final words were unclear, confused, contradictory. He took his secrets with him into the grave. The knife wielder was never found. The note with the initials MLO was never deciphered. And the world was left with a mystery that would never be solved. Now, let us analyze the evidence like Sherlock Holmes would. Was Kaspar truly a secret prince? DNA tests conducted in 1996 and 2002 were inconclusive. The remains of the House of Baden refused testing. The Crown Prince's grave was never opened. Without definitive proof, we cannot say with certainty he was royalty. Was he an impostor? His story had inconsistencies. He described his captivity in vague terms. He could never locate the place where he was kept. He moved with a grace and intelligence that seemed rehearsed. Some historians believe he was a clever fraud exploiting the gullibility of wealthy Europeans. Or was he a genuine victim? A truly tortured soul who was kept in isolation, released onto the world, and then murdered to keep the truth hidden? The attack on him in 1829, the final stabbing in 1833, the mysterious note with initials. These suggest someone wanted him silenced. Someone wanted his secrets to die with him. In the end, we may never know the truth about Kaspar Hauser. We have evidence pointing in every direction, but no definitive answer. Only mystery. Only questions. Only the ghostly memory of a boy who appeared from nowhere and vanished into legend. If you enjoyed unraveling this mystery, like and subscribe to Sherlock Mode.